Hello again, everyone. Melth here, to at long last bring things full circle by playing through the first mission of the Chinese campaign, which was the mission that made me first want to create video Let's Plays to begin with. It has been almost 6 years since I made my first Age of Mythology video. Before doing the mission itself, let's take a look at the Learn to Play cinematic for the Chinese. This has come a long way since the game came out. The game was extremely buggy at the initial release. This cinematic would often get bugged and get stuck permanently. They have at least fixed most of those catastrophic bugs, but it is still a pretty sloppy campaign. The cinematic gets the job done, now that it's fixed though.
Each garden you build increases your favor.
Nice little touch to the guy going by on the horse too.
Your gardens can also be used to generate other resources instead.
The Age of Mortals having both range and melee attacks is unfortunately not as interesting as it could have been. You can't control which they use, and they don't have any kind of intelligence about it. It's just hard-coded that any given individual unit type gets hit with either range attacks or melee attacks, regardless of the situation or whether that is actually helpful against its armor types. Most of the time they'll end up just functioning as generic melee heroes, like Herseer or something like that.
One of the most remarkable
Monks are a weird grab bag hero. They can't pick up relics, they can attack some units and do pretty good damage, but can't attack others at all. They can convert human units to your side like Age of Empires priests. They can heal. Anyway, this part of the cinematic used to be badly bugged. The conversion didn't work, the camera never actually showed the fighting, and then it would just get stuck. The enemies would defeat your immortals, and then you just sit here watching forever as nothing happens. It seems like since the release when I first played this, they fixed a lot of the catastrophic bugs, but there are still plenty of bugs left. When the expansion came out, people, I think quite rightly, decried it as being quite shoddily made. That said, it's not all bad. The first level is, I think, despite some bugs, quite well made, and there are a few good points throughout the campaign in general. But all in all, I would say, the campaign is trash and not worth playing. If you don't have this, don't bother getting it. I'm just going to show you the very good and very challenging first level after this initial cinematic, which I would say is itself a very mixed bag. Some good parts, some bad parts. Having this dam burst is a very cool idea, but the problem is they show us that the level of the river is way below the dam and thus there could not logically be any kind of danger. So a good idea there, but the camera work kind of spoiled it. It would also be a little bit better if the peasants tried to run away instead of just sitting there calmly farming as the wave washes over them. You'll probably notice a lack of any kind of story to these scenes, by the way, too. Just kind of a montage of random disasters. And this part is fine, I guess. And it does lend itself to the strengths of this game's engine. This volcano looks pretty good, I would say. A cool idea for this disasters montage. I love this low shot, too, but then they should have angled the camera back, because now we see these weird triangular blasts of the meteors that were never made to be seen from this angle. So again, I think I would say a good idea, badly executed. Conversely, I might call this next section a bad idea, fairly well done. It's just a generic king sending you on a quest type thing, but they made it look good. The scene looking over the balcony is, I think, fairly unique among Age of Mythology cinematics.
Delivers a message for Emperor Yao. You may speak.
That's good, because he already was.
Your generals have arrived and are awaiting your orders. Good. Let us greet them then.
You can see the three Chinese major gods there. Shenong apparently given the most important place for whatever reason.
I have an important task for you.
General Zhao Long greets His Majesty.
What would you have us do, Father? Something odd is going on in my empire. Strange forces are bringing
Zhao Long should
misfortune
probably already
to
know
our
this because his whole personality is that he likes being out in the provinces helping people. That's pretty much his whole background too. Not a very interesting or well-developed character. Not compared to Arcantos, for example.
Imperial decree, I send
Donzu
you
is actually our
Zhao
main
Long,
villain, but he's
my
just
best
comically
general,
incompetent and
to
no real threat at
investigate
any
the
point.
roots of this unknown.
That would be fine, I guess, but his motives don't make any sense, and that is not good writing. That is about all the story there is, really. There's no connection to the rest of Age of Mythology. There's a vague notion that maybe the Titans in the West cause disturbances in nature over here in the East, but there's no real connection, there's no real follow-through in any of that. It's its own self-contained story where just nothing but Chinese versus Chinese missions. Now obviously, China is a long way away from the other civilizations, but this is Age of Mythology. If they got creative, it would not be hard to tie these civilizations together and have some interesting battles that would have made the campaign a lot more fun. Now, this first mission, although it is still buggy and rough around the edges, is genuinely a very good mission. One of the better ones in all of Age of Mythology, I would say. There are some genuinely good design choices to talk about here. It is also exceedingly challenging, but also very, very easy to cheese, either accidentally or on purpose by exploiting various bugs. So I remember that after I had beaten this mission for the first time, I went online to find out how other people had done it. I was disappointed to find that most people who beat it did so using bugs, either deliberately or accidentally without even knowing it. And I thought, I can do better. But I started at the beginning, and so it's taken me 6 years. Anyway, the first thing to know is, never skip the cinematic. If you skip it due to bugs, you basically double the size of your starting economy and army for free. Easy mode. So if you want a challenge, you must watch it through every time.
Emperor Yao to oversee the efforts to be made against the Great Flood.
Shun is our real main character. Zhao Long basically has no personality and takes no initiative for the rest of the campaign. Shun is actually from mythology, whereas Zhao Long is just fictional, by the way. If you already know any Chinese mythology, you basically know how the story will end with Zhao Long and Danzu and Emperor Yao. Anyway, busy start here. I'll get a storage pit, which is the Chinese granary / storehouse, basically. And I'll walk the heroes toward a side quest, and then I'll start training peasants and have them go get wood. I think going heavy on wood is the best strategy for this chapter, as you'll see as we go along. Now, per the mission objectives, I must build a garden. But one of the simplest ways to cheese the mission is just to not build a garden. I won't be abusing that. I will build a garden and have it complete before 3 minutes and 20 seconds, which is where things bug otherwise. But it is smart to delay it at least that much, because everything else is more important. Now I'm going to send the heroes off on a fun and well-designed side quest, and in the meantime build a total of 6 fishing ships to get some food on the Yellow River here. Food is quite scarce on this map. A lot of Age of Mythology missions are supposed to encourage exploring, but really don't. This mission really does. You can get 12 free peasants by exploring and doing this little quest. But it takes time and attention to do so, which is going to be in short supply in this difficult survival chapter. This thing here, a war salamander, is a very powerful myth unit. At least it was when the game came out. It was just stupidly overpowered at that point. Its special ability is that it can both swim and go on land, and it had just across-the-board overpowered stats. It's been nerfed a lot since then. The next group of peasants is only guarded by monitor lizards, which can't actually swim for absurd reasons, so I can just have Zhao Long get off the boat, recruit them, and then get back onto the boat without needing to stop and fight it. The war salamanders, again, can actually swim, and therefore if you don't kill it, it'll hunt down your fishing ships in your dock and things like that. You don't want that. Monitor lizards can't swim because of silly reasons. Excellent attention to detail in the design there. Finding fish schools are also a pretty serious reward for exploration here, because there's so little food on the map. One more fishing ship. Oh, but I am at the house limit, so... Okay. I didn't drop off. The shores here are just filled with so many, cool clutter decorations that no one ever drops off correctly. It's honestly a bit of a problem. Alright, let's get these guys grouped over there. Zhao Long, though, get back on the boat, actually. So here I'm going to build the garden so it completes before the mission bugs and skips, basically. I should finish the garden just in time to avoid that. Zhao Long should be able to rescue the remaining peasants on his own, while Shun, who's a stronger hero across the board, does the tanking. Zhao Long is bugged, by the way. Get used to me saying that. Everything is bugged. There are more bugs than the US Embassy to the Soviet Union. Anyway, he should have a special sword attack, but he just doesn't. He just flat out does not have that attack. It's bugged. It doesn't work. The result is Zhao Long is pretty much the worst hero in any of the campaigns. I'll send some peasants to build the dams and some to work on gathering gold. Finishing the dams makes us win the mission, but there are a lot of them and they build very slowly. Humongous, almost constant attacks are coming, so I need to mass produce troops from 2 barracks. This island is also quite tricky. There's a lot of these dangerous monitor lizards around, which do more damage than myth units. 4 peasants to rescue, but like 6 or 7 monitor lizards. The monitor lizards in this mission are glass cannons. They do more damage than most myth units do, with no reduction against your heroes, so they're absurdly lethal. But also they count like animals, so peasants can shoot them, and they have only a few hit points, but they don't actually have any food, so you can't harvest them either. It's weird and buggy. But yeah, even these peasants can do a number on them, as long as somebody tanks for them. As you can see, the first wave in your base is always a few monitor lizards from the north. The town center can usually handle them, but here they're going after 1 peasant, and they might catch him, so I'll have other peasants, I think, turn and shoot him. They can probably take him down in about 1 volley and then get back to work. Don't waste time putting your soldiers up to the north to block that wave. The halberders will get mowed down effortlessly. Jiaolong's "what is this thing" line is pretty badly bugged too, by the way. He says it like 3 times sometimes, if you just happen to see crocodiles in several different locations. The gold mine I just cleared is totally safe, by the way, unlike the one in town. And now I'll start massing Chuko News, the Chinese archer. Their unique quirk is that they fire 2 crossbow bolts, but they're both inaccurate. They've been changed a lot in various patches. Most Chinese units were just brokenly overpowered when the game came out and had to be nerfed repeatedly. Like, they're so stupidly overpowered in the early patches that I feel like it was on purpose just to make people want to play the Chinese. Anyway, another exploration reward awaits. Another wave will be coming momentarily, probably from this side, so I'll have Shun out front for that. I want to preserve my fragile human soldiers at this point. I'm getting close to the population cap, so I'll build some more houses. The reason that I build up in the northeast, by the way, is twofold. The biggest thing is that the waves can really easily destroy buildings in just a few hits. This is safely out of the way. And secondly, when the lesser flood comes, if I'm too slow, it badly damages buildings that are down closer to the water, but up here they're usually safe. Anyway, this town center site is the last great reward for exploration. It's a wonderful site, totally safe, lots of resources, and then I'll get Jiaolong back to the mainland. His job is done. Shun originally looked like a copy and paste of Arcantos. He even had his spear, changed it to a sword to make him look less identical. He has Caster's sword attack. And I'd love to get some people working on that side of the dam. The dam kind of works like the excavation site from the first Egyptian mission, if you remember that one. Your peasants working on it very slowly add hit points. It has 99% armor, so every attack just does 1 damage, so any hit point you put onto it protects it pretty well. Ah, get out of the boat! I really do hate how the cluttered and buggy shorelines make it hard to drop people off. But I can delete the transport to free up 2 more population room, I won't need it anymore, and I can get my 2 heroes to tank together. Shun is almost dead, so good time for Jiaolong to arrive. Now this wave here is often fatal if you don't know how to deal with it. If any dam site dies, and they can easily take out the northwesternmost one, you just lose the mission. If you know they're coming and they're built up well, you can take them out, but if you don't know they're coming, you basically just lose at this point. To make a side comment, by the way, these human soldiers only pop up in Titan difficulty, and they just spawn out of thin air. There are temples to the north and south of us, which spawn some myth units, but the human soldiers just poof out of nowhere. Rushing the temples can make the mission much easier, but it's pretty cheesy, I think. They're guarded by so many myth units, you have to just kind of lure them around in the circle where it doesn't really make any sense for them to follow you. Now, I tried to garrison the peasants for safety, but it didn't actually work. I do have a god power that can revive a few villagers. I think it's almost impossible to beat this mission with no villager casualties when you get attacked from all sides constantly and have no way to build walls or towers. Relatedly, I also want to be strategic about which dam sections I repair in which order. First of all, I want to repair ones that come under frequent attack, like the northwestern one. If that just dies, I lose. But I also want to work on ones like this one down here early too, because they don't have enough space to fit many people around them later on, so if I don't get them fast, it'll take me a long time later on, because I can't just devote many peasants at once to it. I think it's also about time for some economic upgrades. Food is really scarce on this map, but you haven't seen anything yet. On the majority of the Chinese campaign, they outright did not place a single food source on the entire map. It's unbelievable, but they really were that lazy. Not a single herdable, not a single huntable, not a single fishing school anywhere on most of the maps. So you have to farm for everything. I'm doing pretty well military-wise. I want to get to about 35 Chuko Nu, roughly. But my economy is doing well too. It's had to start shifting more villagers down toward working on the dams, I think. There's a fun trade-off. Oh, come on guys, save the peasants who are being torn apart right in front of you. That your army just doesn't care about such things is one of the main challenges of the mission. Your peasants are constantly being attacked from all sides. There's no way to build walls or towers to defend them. Your army can't be in 2 places at once, let alone 3. And for some reason, sometimes you just don't aggro onto things like monitor lizards unless you manually click onto them. Anyway, could use more peasants to replace those ones and also to work on the dam construction. I kind of expect the next attack to be on this side, but it's just a guess. You can be attacked from the same side multiple times in a row, or even simultaneously if you have really bad luck. Oh, there you go. I was wrong. Another attack from that side. Luckily, the lizards and war salamanders are often pretty single-minded. You can usually get them to chase after a single peasant while your army tears them apart. That's one reason why I went with Chuko Nus rather than halberdiers, by the way. Just that they'll almost never stand and fight against the halberdiers. And if they did, of course, they'd kill them in 2 or 3 hits anyway, but they almost never will stand and fight, so your halberdiers will waste their time just running around in a mob, not actually getting any hits in. Anyway, time to test more people off of gathering resources and on to repairs. It's a fun strategic trade-off between getting a better economy versus actually working on the mission objective. Again, it's a legitimately good game design trade-off. Oh, that was not what I meant to do. Okay, maybe I can use recreation to revive those guys. I could also use this God Power Great Journey to boost my guy's speed. I don't really find that terribly useful in this mission. I'll be going on my own Great Journey in a week or so, by the way, just starting a whole month of almost constant travel. I'll keep up my usual once per week video schedule, but there will be, I think, more simple videos like Skyrim ones mixed in. The Great Journey, by the way, comes from Chinese literature rather than mythology. In fact, a lot of the units for the Chinese come really from literature rather than myth. Time for some upgrades. I want to improve my quality troops now that they have almost the maximum number, and the acupuncture upgrade could be good for protecting my peasants, giving them more hit points. I'll need favor for that, though. At least the time this game came out, this major goddess, Nuwa, was probably the most powerful in the entire game. Economic major gods were almost always the best ones, and Nuwa just had pretty much the best economic bonuses. 10% off of all human units, including peasants, so just the best economy in the game. Your gardens give you bonus population, so you got more population than Isis, which is one of her major perks. Some other good bonuses too, so just a completely dominant economy that couldn't even be rated very well because of her god power that revives peasants. They thankfully took away her obviously overpowered ability of having peasants have a cheaper cost. Again, as I said, the Chinese started off just wildly overpowered when the game came out, and then it got nerfed into the ground patch after patch. The imbalance doesn't really matter much when you're exclusively fighting Chinese versus Chinese units in the campaign, I suppose. But I remember just shaking my head at unit after unit as I saw them for the first time and thinking this is clearly just more powerful than every other civilization's equivalent. Man, these war salamanders are just ridiculously durable. Even when heroes are hacking at them, they barely take any damage. Ah, here comes more of them. I could build some immortals, but they compete directly with peasants for both build time and food. I'd rather have the peasants and cheap wood-based Chuko news instead. Immortals are another thing that are more of a literary than mythological thing. I mean, there were some early myths about immortals, but the idea of 8 immortals in particular, who have the 8 names that are in the game files but not actually applied in the finished game for whatever reason. That's like an early modern period literary thing rather than mythology at all. And even the dates of birth of these made-up fictional characters are not really in mythological times, but in kind of around the year 1000 or so in many cases, or later. I guess the Iliad and the Odyssey are kind of literature as much as myth too, but even so, I feel like they did something different for the Chinese here and didn't really do as much mythology as they did just kind of taking what things they could find from kind of Chinese folklore, whether or not it was something that could be called mythology reasonably or not. Yeah, this attack has been rough. Multiple waves at the same time is not really supposed to happen, but the mission was not very well put together and tested. Sometimes it's very easy, sometimes it's very hard. Bad micro on my part definitely compounded things, but it was also a bit of bad luck with the wave timing. You've probably noticed, by the way, that the Lesser Flood is coming in 5 minutes or so. When that happens, it looks really, really, really dumb, but basically a god power will hit part of the town near the river and the gate there and do hard to predict damage to some buildings and units that are in that area. Pretty easy to be out of the way, especially if you built way in the back like I did. But, like, what you see does not correspond at all to the way a flood would logically work, doesn't really make much sense, and it can seem just kind of random what takes damage and what doesn't. I made this separate save file so you can see just how silly the flood looks. I put up buildings and units in a straight line, basically from the water's edge way back into the far northeast, to demonstrate that there's really no pattern who takes damage and who doesn't. Even people who are right in the water, sometimes are totally unharmed, sometimes are hurt badly. Units that are right near the water's edge might be hurt badly, might take no damage at all. Buildings that are right near it might take nothing, buildings that are further back might take heavy damage. That said, I think it's a really cool idea as part of the game design of the chapter to have kind of this mini time limit to worry about. Just could have used more polish. I think I'll build a few more gardens because each of those gives me 1 more population, so thus 1 more peasant. If I have enough peasants and use good micro and keep them alive, I'll actually be able to finish before even the Lesser Flood happens. So that is my goal here. This northwestern dam comes under heavy attack pretty often, so it's very rough to finish it. Your peasants are hard to protect over there. Not to mention it gets directly attacked now and then. Maybe I can bait these guys back in range of my heroes and kill them off a little bit faster and thus get back to work faster. Might have one die running too close to them there, we'll see. I don't know if I said this by the way, but you can't get temples on this map either, and can't get any myth units or mythological upgrades really. Showing how little they thought things through, there actually is a relic at the end of the northeastern path, but you can't do anything with it because you can't get a temple. It used to be that it was bugged, and if you skip the cinematic, you'd start off in the archaic age, but with the whole tech tree unlocked and able to go all the way up to heroic actually, so basically a totally different mission and much easier. I am just feeling like I'm getting clobbered here though. I mean, this mission is a tough one. Even when you built up a lot, it is hard to win, and you'll lose a lot of peasants along the way most of the time. Multiple attacks at the same time, can't be everywhere at once. Even with Great Journey, you just need to fight on 2 fronts at once sometimes, and can't do that. Luck is playing a role too. When the waves arrive, kind of randomized. But definitely a biggest factor is that, of course, I haven't played this in, like, a year, more than a year maybe, so out of practice for sure. Many years since I did this particular mission. But you know what? This is pretty much the hardest this mission can possibly be. I did things the tough way by not skipping the cinematic. I built the garden rather than just skipping that, and having rough luck with the wave timings too, so this just kind of shows the most challenging the mission can be and how the strategy works anyway. You know, these gardens are bugging, I think. You're only supposed to be able to build one of them at a time, like Egyptian monuments, but now I can just build as many as I want, it appears, up to the maximum limit. Have I mentioned before that everything is bugged? You know, actually, I wonder if this is tied to the way that the first two gardens are cheaper. Maybe that's what's confusing me about why I couldn't build multiple ones at the beginning, but I can now. Anyway, we're almost done with the bottom section of dams entirely. Well, getting attacked over there. I do want to say, by the way, I appreciate the unit variety of the attackers. It would be nice if we could defend with a more balanced army instead of only having nothing but Chuko News and Halberdiers here, but they gave us interesting things to fight against. Animals, myth units, and a variety of human soldiers. Probably giving us a smaller number of units is a good way to keep things on the first scenario. It can be frustrating to fight with only one or two types of guys against a large enemy army of many different unit types, but again, I think it's good design to have many different types of enemy waves on a survival chapter, and it's probably fair on the introductory scenario to have us only have a couple of units available to keep things simple. So you know what, I think this scenario is a lot like my strategy for this mission, in that they're both a little bit sloppy this time, but there's some good ideas at the core of it. I think for survival chapters and RTSs, this one is well better than par. It's good to have other things going on to divide your attention and your focus and make you have a reward for leaving your town instead of just fortifying it. It's good to have a wide variety of enemy attacking waves. Good, the difficulty ramps up pretty fast instead of just becoming either a couple of super intense waves and then an easy, boring grind to finish the survival timer, or a boring and easy opener followed by a giant finale wave at the very end. A lot of survival and defense chapters in Age of Mythology or other RTSs are not as good as this one. I also want to praise again the creative rewards for exploration. 12 peasants, a great gold mine, another town center site, and a totally safe resource gathering area. That kind of thing is why for 6 years I wanted to come back and play this scenario one more time. It's well designed even if it's not very well made.
This thing is a war salamander from the underworld.
Oftentimes, enemy units will just wander by during this conversation and make the entire thing comical. Yeah, here one comes. I've seen things even sillier than that. And this so-called peasant is actually one of the immortals. Again, just a complete lack of polish in the cinematics. And most of the rest of the campaign is just kind of a boring series of go here and talk to this person quests.
Very well. Gather your provisions. We move north.
Even this manages to be wrong. We go west to the next mission. So as far as I'm concerned, the Chinese campaign ends here. It was a good mission, but nothing after this is worth playing or worth watching. I am curious whether the recently announced Age of Mythology retooled will be retooling this campaign or ignoring it. I guess we'll see. Almost 20 years since I first played this game, and 6 years since I started this series, I still very much enjoy it. And without it, I would never have started off as a YouTuber at all. I'm glad I could bring things full circle and finish this mission at last. Thank you for watching, everyone. And a special thank you to my Patreon supporters: Illusory Thunder, Master Knight DH, Advanced Warrior, Gregory, William Wakefield, Kenny Boggs, Danny Hall, and Jeffrey Morse. Have a great day, everyone.